Hey, folks, good morning and welcome to another episode of Steelers Morning Rush. I'm Alan Saunders. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching everything on our Steelers Now YouTube channel. It is Monday, August 12th. We made it to another week of Steelers training camp. It is the last week of Steelers training camp. We only have two more practices at St. Vincent College, one practice with the Buffalo Bills at Acrisure Stadium, and then we are donezo for training camp 2024. And it is starting to get late early for some folks on the Steelers 90-man roster. And what I mean by that is, the first couple of weeks of training camp are all about identifying what the Steelers have in players. You're trying to see who can do what and who can't do what. That's why Quez Watkins is out there returning punts for the first time in his professional career. They're just trying to figure things out about the players, about themselves, their offense. There's a lot of new. And so you start to just let guys decide on their own where they belong. And then when you get to the end of training camp, it starts to really be about competition. Competition for starting jobs, absolutely. And I think you're going to see that continue at quarterback with Russell Wilson getting his first game action this week. And I expect Justin Fields to follow him and play a lot in this game against the Buffalo Bills. You're going to see it continue at center, where I believe you're going to see the most of Zach Frazier we've seen. And I do believe we will see him work at least some with the starting unit this week as they give him an opportunity to make that team to earn that starting role. You're also going to see it, though, and maybe more in terms of where those roster cut lines fall. And now that we've had 2 weeks of training camp under our belt in a preseason game, it's starting to become pretty clear what those important training camp battles, where are guys fighting for spots. And so I figured I'd highlight a couple of those places because I think there are some pretty difficult cuts on this team right now. I'll start in the offense, and I'll start with the offensive line. I think there are 10 quality offensive linemen on this team. You're only going to see 9 of them play this week because Troy Fautanu is out. He is going to miss at least this week, probably next week, with a knee sprain. I expect he'll be on the 53-man roster, though. He's going to be about healthy in time for the opener. So they're probably not going to keep 10 offensive linemen. Who's the odd man out? I think, Mason McCormick was a 4th-round pick. It's hard to see him getting cut loose. We had talked maybe about the Steelers trading Dan Moore. Now I expect him to be the week 1 starter, so I think that's off the table. How do they cut down this 10-man unit on this offensive line? I think guys like Spencer Anderson and Dylan Cook have a lot of pressure on them, and not just to avoid being cut, but, I think these guys are legitimate tradable options if it comes down to it for the Steelers as well, where they can trade from this surplus on the offensive line to get down to 9, but they need to get down to 9 in some way. And I think that's a really interesting thing to watch, especially when you're looking at that second team offensive line, which will probably get pretty significant playing time this week. Let's move over a slot, talk about tight end. I think this is an offense that's going to use the tight end a lot. I look down at my play chart and I see 12 personnel and 13 personnel all over. In fact, it's almost been unfair that they have 10 wide receivers and they have 6 tight ends, and they spend way more time with more tight ends on the field than receivers. So it's like those guys have been overworked in training camp. Guys like Rodney Williams getting back to health. That to me is probably a place where they keep 4 players, and you can maybe lump a fullback in there too. They've been using Jack Coletto an awful lot. I'm not sure he's been playing physically. He doesn't seem like a guy who screams like you have to keep me, but I think their commitment to the fullback position seems real. So is it Coletto? If it's not Coletto, who is it? Is it someone else from somewhere else? Is it Michael Pruitt? He's done it in the past, but we haven't seen it out here. Connor Hayward, a different kind of fullback. He can do it in a receiving role, but he's not your I formation lead blocker type. I think so. How many guys can they use on that spot? And I think you kind of look at guys like Rodney Williams, who was here all last year and is a very good special teamer. Connor Hayward, Michael Pruitt, Jack Coletto. Certainly there's 3 spots for those 4 guys, but I don't think there are 4. And so I think that's a place where you could see a cut coming from a player with NFL experience. All those guys are experienced NFL players except for Coletto. So that's definitely an area to watch. Wide receiver, man, is still just wide open in my book. I think obviously George Pickens, Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin, they're the starters. They're going to make this team. Roman Wilson, even though he's not healthy and hasn't been practicing, he's going to make this team. who else? I don't know. Scotty Miller, I think, has been better than I expected him to be. I think he has a real chance to make this team. Quez Watkins had a really tough first preseason game, but he had probably the best practice I've seen any receiver have all training camp on Sunday. I think that just kind of shows like how unpredictable this battle is. I think they could go in a number of different directions. Des Fitzpatrick was the starting punt gunner on Friday. If he wins that role, does he have to make the team? Not that I think he did a very good job of it, but they lost both of their punt gunners from last season. That was James Pierre and Miles Boykin. Whoever wins that role may win a roster spot sort of by default, and so they have some real questions at wide receiver. And then obviously the big unknown is, do they add someone to this room from outside? Let's shift over to the defense here. I think the defensive line has been really good, and the depth defensive line. DeMarvin Leal has been playing out of his mind. I think he's the most improved player from a year ago. He looks awesome out there. What I saw on the field on Friday didn't surprise me because he's been doing it all training camp and looking really good doing it. And I think Isaiah Loudermilk has been, different kind of player, not as flashy, not as pass rush oriented. I think he's been very good. Montravius Adams has been excellent. Dean Lowry's back from the PUP list. How does he fit into that mix? And that's 7. I mean, they're pretty comfortable keeping 7 defensive linemen, but does that mean that rookie 6th-round pick Logan Lee ends up on the outside looking in? I think that's the way I have it right now, but he certainly still has some time here to make a push to make this roster. And then the secondary, they are putting an awful lot on some young members of the secondary. They have Joey Porter. Somebody asked me this, so I'll go through it. Joey Porter, Dante Jackson, Minka Fitzpatrick, Deshaun Elliott are going to start. Devontae Casey will come in the heavy nickel. Beanie Bishop will come in the regular nickel. Those are the starters. Those 6 guys are on the team. Now, where do you go from there? I think Corey Trice has separated himself as the number 3 corner, but he has played 0 NFL games. Darius Rush is a special teamer, has a little bit of experience. He can play outside and inside in a sort of bigger slot role. I think he's someone they want to keep around, but I'm not sure he's necessarily playing that well right now. Then you have Ryan Watts, who was a corner in college, probably could still play corner if you needed him to, but the Steelers see him as a safety, and they're moving him to strong safety. And man, is he picking it up quickly. I think he's, compared to where he was in minicamp, just worlds ahead right now. And a guy that I think is playing his way onto the 53-man roster. And then you have some veteran guys like Graylin Arnold, who can play safety and he can play in the slot. He's been around a little bit. He has some experience. None of those first 3 guys have any real, Rush has a handful of games, any real NFL experience. And then you have Anthony Averett, who I thought has been pretty rough in the preseason, up and down in training camp, but he has a ton of NFL experience. So do you value the experience of a guy like Averett, or do you go with the potential of someone like Rush, or do you decide that you need more of a backup for Beanie Bishop in the slot and go with someone like Graylin Arnold or Thomas Graham? I'll throw him in there too. He doesn't get talked about very much. I think he's played really, really well, and he's played both slot corner and outside corner, so he has that versatility. Just like wide receiver, special teams could be the way someone wins a job. If you see Darius Rush or Ryan Watts go down there and start making tackles on special teams, or one of them serving as the top punt gunner, I think that's a really strong sign they're ahead of the game in terms of the roster battle. So that's where I'm setting up these roster battles as we enter the last week of training camp here. Let me know what you think. And we'll also have a full 53-man roster projection up later today at SteelersNow.com. I haven't done that since the start of camp, so make sure you check that out as well. Make sure you like and subscribe and hit that bell for notifications here on the YouTube channel so you don't miss anything. I'll be back with another practice report later on, and then Steelers Afternoon Drive with myself and Zachary Smith. You don't want to miss it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.